Hello and welcome to another Let's Play GamerWolfSix of Sileo, Tales of a New Dawn. Before we start, if you're interested in playing this game, you can get it for free on itch.io, but if you want to support the people that make this game and or get the newest version earlier, you can go to their Patreon. I forgot to look it up, but at least I remember it this time. It's $5 a month or $54 a year. So, on the last Let's Play, we went camping and talked about our respective backgrounds, and Axel fell into a creek. Because he's a clumsy boy. He's small, but clumsy. So I reset my face and begin. Having fished a soaking wet Axel from the creek, the four of us continued onward, Axel leaving a trail of water with every passing step. Aw, he's a moist pussy. Ha ha, got him. Not only was he completely drenched, but the contents of his pack, including his other clothes were too, also seemed torn in the choice between his amusement and his empathy. It's just like old times, dude. I can't believe it. I'm totally thrilled. I'm not. You know, I know. I'm sorry, Axe. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just happy. And not because you're wet. I mean, I missed you, little dude. Aw, me too. I missed you too. How very sweet. It would seem our camping expedition has helped facilitate touching reunion between long-lost friends. At long last, it was looking as though our journey had made some much-needed progress. Looming overhead stood one of the mountains that constituted the outer ring surrounding Woodcrest, and before us was a flight of stairs leading towards it. So all of a sudden my brain was like, building on, mountains and stuff. I mean, people tend to build in valleys, right? I mean, I went to this one place, Durango, I think it is. Someplace in Colorado. Interesting place. It was for a geology trip. Adrian Russell and Axel have spoken at length about their childhood. I'm most curious as to when I can expect to learn more about your own. Mine? It's not really an exciting story. I would still very much like to hear it. After all, we are dating, are we not? Ty's requests seem fair. After all, it was only natural to want to know about the person you're building a relationship with. I cleared my throat and began telling the tale of my life. Sure, well, I was born at a very young age. My parents split before I was born. It was amicable, but they just couldn't agree on how to proceed. I only met my dad a few times throughout my life, but he's a good man. I was raised by my mother solo. I was the only child, didn't have a heap of money, but she did everything she could to give me the happiest childhood possible, often to her own determinant. I grew up as a kid in Sidonia? But when my grandpa died, Mom got something of an inheritance, so we moved away to Riverton on the west coast, where that inheritance could afford a deposit on the house for us to live in. And after high school, that's when I moved to Sidonia, so I guess you already know the rest. When was the last time you saw your mom? She stayed with me for a few weeks, not long after I finished university. She could see I was struggling. She felt bad, but there wasn't anything she could do to help. We still chat now and then. She's doing okay. Riverton has been good to her, at least for the most part. Why did you move here instead of back to Riverton? Riverton is small. Too small. It's a nice place, but it's not somewhere I could see myself having a future. Woodcrest, though? This place has a reputation as the place to be, even though it's also small. I wonder how small Riverton is. It's interesting to think about small towns, because I used to live in a town of 5,000. And it's kind of funny. I would open up OkCupid and put up like the range of like 100 miles, and it would have 2 people on it. And sometimes I feel bad about, making this reference to somebody's looks, but one of them looked like a thumb. It's like, I guess the dating scene ain't good. Which is odd because we were in a college town, but I guess, I was a bit older than most of the people there, because I was going for my master's, and then also, maybe kids these days, those teenagers in college, don't use dating apps as much. I don't know. I'm not somebody in their 20s. Or like, what, 18 to 21 or something like that, or 23? Yeah. I'm like the guy from, Kaiju number 8. Except with, fit. And with 5 extra years on my belt. Anyways, you're right about that, dude. Summer's Vale is the same as Riverton, by the sounds of things, I guess. It's dying down there because all the young workers come up here instead. And, well, it's like I said, Diego was here too, and he had a room for me. And I really didn't want to move back with my mom, Totally, dude. I get ya. What about your dad? What about him? When did you last see him? I mean, he was in Cydonia once during my last year of uni. He was only in town for a day, but he dropped by to say hello. It's kind of awkward without Mom there. We never really found our groove with one another, but I appreciate the efforts on his part. I see. It must be hard growing up without Dad. No, not really. But I guess I never really knew what I was missing. It was harder for Mom, I think. Raising a kid on one income. Like, I know they mutually split up, but wouldn't there be a thing called child support? Yeah, I'm glad she's doing okay. And I'm glad you're doing okay too. Indeed. I share the very same sentiment, and I thank you for sharing, Adrian. Your tale is a lot more interesting. Again? Ty's pace slowed down again, sending the 3 of us into a pile-up directly behind him. Not unlike before, but he began sniffing the air. Some interesting scent had piqued my curiosity. I'm just gonna look at this text and then reset my face. Okay, no, nothing important. Because it seemed like my head was a bit uncentered. Something in the wind again? Indeed. I can't smell anything. Russell? Dude, I'm a shock. I can smell blood in the water miles away. But, we're not in the water. But I thought... Wanna know if, like, someone peed in your pool or something? As much as I would hate for you asking, I'm your dude. But on land, I can barely smell what's, like, right in front of my face. Oh. Actually, I kinda do wonder, is the same kind of receptors for sharks and stuff the same underwater as it is for, like, land animals? Like, I know they probably have, like, bajillions of sensors in there, but still. I gotta admit, though, I am curious too. Adrian, any ideas? Nope, I didn't catch it either. Well, I'd either suspect either someone else is up here, cooking, and it's like, this campground isn't completely abandoned. Or B, it's somebody that Ty knows intimately, in a way. Could either be Kyrex, because I feel like I'm not sure how this route would change with regards to Kyrex, because we only saw him when he was like, hey, you want to bang in the gym? And then, yeah, pretty much nothing. I wonder if there's any connection. But then maybe it could be the Spencer? Anyways, no, I didn't catch it either. Indeed, it has eluded me once more. I'm sorry to have wasted your time, gentlemen. Let's mosey on. Though, how good are Tiger's sense of smells? Ty began walking once again as Axel, Russell, and I rejoined formation in his wake. The stems we'd been climbing continued to stretch out into the distance, with no end in sight as our group continued to press onward. Thinking about our conversations, I was conscious that I, like Axel and Russell before me, had told everyone about my upbringing. Yet, Ty had not extended that same courtesy. You know, Ty, it strikes me as except for you, we've all talked at length about ourselves. Oh? My goodness, you're right. I apologize. Where are my manners? Is that something you'd like to hear? Of course. Totally, man. I bet you, got some crazy stories to tell. Yep. You know all about us. It's only fair. I guess you're right. Fair is fair. Well then, let me think. Ty quickly seemed enveloped by his thoughts, scratching at his chin in sync with each step he climbed. His silence persisted for quite some time before I spoke up, hoping to regain his attention. Now look who is away with the fairies. Come on, Ty. We're waiting for you to tell your story. I guess that's some kind of a phrase from some other part of the world. Oh dear, I'm sorry. My mind was somewhere else. I feel compelled to warn you that this is no story for the faint of heart. I should hope none of you will find this upsetting, but it kind of makes me think that the person who made this game is from Europe. Or is a European descendant? Because they use the word torch for a flashlight, which, that's what people from England use. Nothing for it but to proceed, I suppose. I will begin by telling you that I was raised by my maternal grandmother. I remembered very little about my parents, but suffice to say, they were not present. Axel's face fell, no doubt in recollection of his prior comment about growing up without a dad. Right away, though, it seemed as though Ty's childhood would be less of an upbeat story than those that followed. Much like you, Adrian, I was raised as an only child by a single caregiver, and much like your mother, my gran did everything in her power to make it up for what I was missing out on. She did a fantastic job. I owe much of my success and happiness today to her. I will never forget everything she did for me. Wow, dude, she seems like a super special lady. You are right, she was. She raised me as though I was her own, and she was also very kind and selfless. I have such fond memories. There was this thing she used to say to me whenever I was hurt, or sad, or even if I was scared. I had nightmares a lot as a child, you see, and I'd wake up in hysterics. She would scoop me up out of bed and into her arms. She would sit there patiently, sometimes for hours, consoling me and trying to calm me down. And if all else failed, she did the most era-appropriate thing you could imagine and gave me a shot of whiskey. Foul stuff. I remember it tasted of cinnamon and nutmeg. I had not mentioned before. I certainly did if I had not mentioned before, I certainly did after that. I often wonder if it was the alcohol or the shock of its foul taste. But when I finally had, those were the moment she gave her most precious phrase for it. Is that such a strong boy? And you should be very proud of yourself. On my very first day of school, I brought a bottle of whiskey. All the kids just ignored me. They had their little groups and were off doing their things children do. I felt lonely, but almost as if it were fate. There's another child feeling the very same way. I did not notice him at first. He sat in the corner of the room, alone, playing quietly with a fire truck toy. I watched as a group of boys would then approach and yank the toy from his grasp. They called him all these names, but one in particular stood out: Dirty Orphan. I knew what it was like not having parents, and I stepped in, drove the boys back. I sat with the boy as tears streamed down his face. I told him that I had no parents either, and that I knew what it was like. I told him he had nothing to be ashamed of, and that I would not let those kids bother him anymore. I gave him the biggest hug, and after that, he looked at me with those big green eyes of his and barely forced a shaky smile. That's when he introduced himself. Lucas. I was just thinking that. It was like, it'd be weird if it's somebody just random, but it's like, I feel like it could be Lucas, and then I was going to go do the thing that this game is really good at, and be like, does Lucas have green eyes? Okay, it's just shirtless. Wait, when did we unlock a shirtless thing? For a second there, I was like, crap, we went into the thing, I'm gonna have to censor it, but no. Oh yeah, he has green eyes. Also, I guess this is his apartment. We've never seen it before. But man, I really wish more games did this. Like, I know I say this constantly, but it's like, it's so nice I can just be like, okay, who the fuck is this person? Click here. Oh, right, that's Spencer, that's Ty, that's Jay, that's Logan. Right. But anyways, back to the touching scene. From that day forward, Lucas and I were inseparable. Woodcrest was much smaller in those days, so most year groups had only one class. You see, those children forever forgot that I stepped in for Lucas. We spent the entire childhood with targets on our backs. Oh, never forgot that I stepped in for Lucas. Thankfully, the smaller classes also meant that we could look out for and protect one another. I spent each and every school day in his company and most afternoons. He would even come home with me, even sometimes staying the entire night. The orphanage was not a particularly happy place for him, so Gran did all she could to try and surround him with happiness. Whenever Gran would take me somewhere, Lucas would always come along with us, as we set out to finding the most beautiful places in Woodcrest. Do they still have orphanages? I mean, I guess so in some parts of the world. But there was one spot in particular all three of us loved the most. There is this place north of town, tucked deep in the forest, and nestled away in the hills, which has the most beautiful view of Woodcrest you will ever see. It is also very quiet and peaceful there. The path that leads to it was near where we set out from earlier. The three of us spent most of the time there. I have so many fond memories. Lucas was adopted when he was 9. We were both so scared that his new parents would split us all up. Instead, they did everything they could to make him happy. They even paid Gran a little for her trouble. They were wonderful people. It took Lucas a long time, but eventually he would warm up to them too. And so, life carried on. That was until we began high school. I apologize. High school was a very difficult time for us. For me in particular. There were some bad memories that I do not wish to revisit. It's okay, I'm not third. You don't have to say anything you don't like. Want to. Yep. It began making sense why Ty hasn't offered to tell his own tale. I couldn't help but be curious about just what this high school years had entailed, but last thing I wanted to do was cause him any discomfort or set the overall mood. We understand. Just say that what you're comfortable with. Well, you see, I fell out of contact with Gran and Lucas for a couple of years. I had said and done many regretful things, and I pushed them both away, even though they wanted to help. And so, I found myself at rock bottom, enjoying the silence in a spot overlooking Woodcrest one evening, and Lucas found me. He brought cake with him. I had not even realized it was my 17th birthday. I was glad that he found me when he did. After that, I reconnected with them both, and just in the nick of time, because Gran didn't have long left. I had not made those past few years easy on her. Thus, I spent those final moments doing everything I could to make it up to her. And I remember, one of the last things she said to me, "You have become such a strong young man. I'm so very, very proud of you." Can we hug him? It was a couple of days after she said those words that Lucas and I sat with her again in a beautiful spot overlooking the town. We spoke to her for hours and hours. I told her all about my aspirations, all the things I wanted to do. And then, we set her free, scattering her ashes across the beautiful spot. Don't make me feel sad. And from there, she could watch us both. Watch as we tirelessly strive to continue making her proud. Wow, dude. That was like heart-wrenching, man. Ah, why did she have to die? There, Axe. It's okay, dude. She was pretty much ancient. And it's like, oh yes, I have some, like, my grandfathers died quite a while ago, but my grandmothers are still alive, which is nice. Though, granted, I can't really talk to one of my grandmas that often because she doesn't have a phone in her place, and she's going kind of going downhill mentally, but such is life. We have some good memories though, and she's happy where she is. And yeah, she's in another country, so I can't just, I do envy people who are like, oh yeah, I have family, and they're in the far-off place of the next town over, or the next state over. For me, it's like, yeah, if I want to go visit them, it's a couple $100 and a couple hours flights to another place. Not including, hotel and da-da-da-da-da. I hesitated, taking the time to ensure my response was appropriate before speaking up. She sounded an amazing, Ty. I'm glad you managed to patch things up before the end. Thank you for sharing it with us. It was my pleasure, Adrian, and I know that she would be proud of both Lucas and me. That kind of makes Lucas and you like brothers or something. On the contrary, I believe our friendship defies definition. For example, I was a while shy of 18 when Gran passed. I was not a legal adult just yet, and would likely have wound up in an orphanage myself. Not unlike Lucas had been one all those years before. Not unlike Lucas had been one. I'm gonna put that. It's probably just how people say things, but still just like. And of course, like maybe after I, do this video, I might come back and be like, oh wait, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But you see, he wouldn't allow me to go through that. And, well, he was a little more than a year older than I was, so he adopted you? What, he's, like, your adoptive dad or something? Oh dear, please do not call him that. He was merely my legal guardian on a paper until I was of age. So you could call him Daddy? Haha, say that. Ty just, cringed. Daddy Lucas. Please stop saying that. The three of us broke into hysterical laughter at Ty's expense. Though we might want to roll back just so I can get that thumbnail. Like, I always have to do two pictures just in case one of them sucks. Broke into hysterical laughter at Ty's expense. Thankfully for us, our cheer would soon win him over, even going as far as to enjoy a few laughs himself. As we walked and laughed, we noticed the end of the long flight of stairs with the pathway curling around the side of the mountain. It would seem our timing is impeccable. Our campsite is only mere minutes away. I was incredibly relieved to hear that. The straps on my pack had been cutting into my ribs for the past 2 hours, and my feet were killing me. With newfound motivation, the four of us picked up our pace, reaching the top of the stairs and following around the path until... Also, that's not Woodcrest, is it? Because that looks like a city-ass city. Wow, it's such an amazing view. Dude, you're like the master of great views or something. I can't see I can't see Summersville from up here, though. Indeed, it is obscured by the mountains to the south of us. Perhaps, if I knew I could be in the company of two Summervalians, I might have chosen another spot. I suppose that would defeat the purpose. I didn't choose this location deliberately after all. You may not be able to see Summersvale, but you may be surprised that you can see it from here. Looking onward, I could see little but sprawling open farmland, miles below us, stretching far as the eye could see. But vaguely on the horizon, I could make out something else. Do you see it, Adrian? Yeah, I think so. Surely, you of all people know what it is. It took a moment to ascertain my orientation. We had driven north from Woodcrest. We had driven north from Woodcrest, and walked nearly exclusively towards the east, as confirmed by the sun's position. Overhead, reading yawns, as it gradually fell forward towards the horizon. I scratched my chin. So many tall buildings, so very far away. There was only one place that could possibly have been. Cydonia City. No way, but doesn't it take a whole day to get there? Indeed, via train, though that route is hardly the most direct. Even then, you could reasonably expect 3 or 4 hours by car. Thankfully, we have clear skies and our elevations on our side. It's not always possible to see Cydonia from so far away. Now, if there are no objections, I propose we set up camp here. Sunset will arrive in short order, and believe me, from this vantage point, you will not want to miss it. Yep. Like, 0 objections from me, dude. Adrian? It was a moment that felt almost profound somehow. Here I stood on top of one of the highest points in the entire country, surrounded by new friends and the man who I was so deeply infatuated with, staring upon the visage of my life I had only just left behind. Doing what I'd done, throwing my entire life and just running away. It was such a risky and foolish move, one that could so easily backfired and left me homeless, or worse. And yet, I was so unbelievably happy. I beamed to myself. My crazy gamble had paid off big time. I had mustered the courage to dive headfirst into the unknown, leaving behind a familiar misery, and I had no regrets, not a single one. Adrian, are you happy if we set up camp here? I couldn't think of a better place. Thank you, Ty. This is amazing. Ty smiled warmly, while gently stroking the fur on the back of my neck. Then, each of us removed our packs and began unloading our supplies. Within my bag, I carried some food items, cookware, various odds and ends, and finally 2 sleeping bags, of which one seemed almost particularly large. Ty's pack contained more food and cookingware. A large tent and a large black carry bag contained an acoustic guitar. The prospect of him playing music for us was an exciting one. We had to remain focused on the task at hand. Russell's pack contained Axel's tent, sleeping bags for both, even more food, cookingware, as well as some various items, including Ty's flashlights. Instead of torches for some reason now. And finally, reading yawns, Axel's pack contained a number of different things, including the equipment we would be needing for our campfire, star campfire. All of it utterly drenched with river water. Oh dear, that is quite the shame. I'm sorry. No, please do not apologize. I will assure you that it's quite alright. But how will we start a fire now? You can't go camping and not have a campfire. Did you bring any spares? I'm afraid I do not. Thankfully for us, where there's a will, there's always a way. Might I request one of you two finish up the camp? Or that the 2 of you finish up the camp? Sure thing, my dude. What have you got in mind? Adrian and I will head into the nearby woods and see what fire-making materials we can conjure up. Hopefully, we will not be gone long, but I know not how lucky we will be. Sweet. Not having fire would be a total bummer. I'm glad you, know what you're doing, man. Good luck. Well, Adrian, shall we? Definitely. We'd like to get a fire going before it gets too cold out. The 2 of us departed from the camp, heading over to the dense woods situated on the opposite side of the campsite from which we arrived. And with that scene change, I think it's a good time to call it. 'Cause, It's the 30-minute mark. What a woof gonna do woof. But yeah, I was just trying to think of stuff, which I can't really think of at the moment for some reason. But yeah, if you want to play this game, it's available free on itch.io. But if you want to support the people that make this game and or get the newest version earlier, you can go to their Patreon, where he's $5 a month, 54 a year. Sorry, I had a farty brain. And if you want to play this game, it's available. Oh yeah, I already just said that. Spay and or neuter your animals, I guess. It'd all be like that sometimes. Like, comment, subscribe. I don't know why I'm having a brain fart, but oh yeah, I guess there's a thing in this game where, like, there's a whole bunch of lore dump of this universe in Ty's route. We'll have to see. It'll be interesting. Anyways, until next time, another Let's Play GamerWolfSix Sileo, Tales of New Dawn. So thanks and see ya.